Man, the ending of this episode had me gagged. Let's talk about the Fashionaires of Atlanta. Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to KRS TV. This is your boy Kenny, and this is the Fashionaires of Atlanta Season 1, Episode 3, and the name of this episode is Drippin. I am so thoroughly entertained with this reality web series, the Fashionaires of Atlanta. I love the cast and crew. The situations are insane, and let me say, this damn ending had me gagged. And I'm gonna get to it, so let me begin. The episode opened up. There was a poll that was taken in regards to Jean-Pierre and KL Allen, whether they can work out the issues. 45% said yes, 20% said no, 35% said hell to the nah, too much ego. So that's where it opened up, and then they also showed people through social media giving their comments on the situation. Then it opens up with Cachet Royale. Cachet Royale, I have to say, is my favorite image consultant. I love her style, I love her aesthetic, and I love her personality. And as I said, she's the perfect combination. Cash, royalty, fudge. A combination for the gods. You can't go wrong with those three. So yeah. So we see that she's actually styling this woman named Stephanie, who's the creator of Empire magazine. You know, she's pretty much the HBIC, of her game. And we see that she's designing her and giving her that corporate sexy look, because she says that she's normally somebody who just is very basic and kind of like a sneakers and jeans type of person, but she wanted to take her out of her element to give her that boss look. And I must say, she really did give her like a glamour Dominique Devereaux type of thing. And for those of you who do not know about Dominique Devereaux of Dynasty, Diane Carroll made that role iconic. She literally went to Aaron Spelling at a party and said, "I'm going to be the first black bitch on television." And Dominique Devereaux has been one of the iconic roles on that show, along with Crystal and Alexis. Dominique was a black bitch, and she ain't take no shit, and she was a boss. So coming from, and then on top of it, Diane Carroll was a boss in her own right as well. So I was like really feeling her when she brought that up. And she also said that she decided to put her in heels because she normally doesn't wear heels. So she pretty much said that, hey, if you're gonna hire me as your image consultant, if you're just gonna do what you normally do, why hire me? I'm gonna do something that's gonna take you out your element and is gonna give you a different look and a different perspective. And I must say, Stephanie looked gorgeous, and my favorite number that she did was the white one. The white dress, baby looked gorgeous, and I was like, yes, HBIC all day. And afterwards, after the shoot, Stephanie and Cachet have a conversation, and Cachet talks about that she's writing a book saying "Grandma Made Me Tell You," which she said it was opening up some wounds, and it was like something that she is now forthcoming to talk about her story and about how she became who she is. And I thought that was pretty cool. But then Stephanie wanted to meet with her because she wanted to tell her that because of her work and the fact that she did such a great job working with her, that she wants to bring her on her team as being the chief wardrobe stylist for Empire magazine. So that's a major accomplishment. So shout out to Cachet Royale. You did that, girl. Then we get a scene with KL Allen, and we see that he meets up with Asia Shari, and she comes in with Chase, who's actually who's pretty much a model. He's pretty much a model manager, and KL is definitely feeling some type of way because on the last episode, you know, Asia was supposed to have been sending a car to come pick them up, you know, for her event. We come to find out what actually went down. You know, Asia was very forthcoming and said that, look, there was a lot of drama. And pretty much what ended up happening was that Charzelle, y'all remember Charzelle, because y'all remember in episode 2, Charzelle and KL had this big blowout where the police were called. And Charzelle was actually the makeup artist for Asia's fashion show. And Charzelle pretty much said that if KL and the crew come through, she leaving. And at the end of the day, you know, Asia's like, I already paid her, and you know, I wasn't going to just let her leave and not do all of my models, you know, makeup. So she pretty much just decided that she was not going to cause any drama and set up her show because she needed Charzelle for her show because Charzelle was working. So KL is like, oh, really? Oh, this bitch really tried it. You know, I gave you an opportunity. I brought you to my table and I was going to really try to make something better for you. And you stabbed me in the back. He's like, you know what? He's like, you know, you done, bitch. You're done. So we got that going on. And then, you know, KL also talks about, you know, while they were at the house, you know, waiting, and Jean-Pierre showed up, he said that they got into it again, and I just feel like he's always in competition, you know, with me and everything. You know, and Asia said that, yeah, you know, you two need to have a sit down and talk. And then he asked, well, did you invite Tracia J? And she's like, yeah, you know, she said she'll try to make it, but, you know, she didn't show up. And she said that, you know, I saw, and then she said I did send her a message, and I seen that she saw it, but she never responded. So she's like, I ain't chasing nobody, so it is what it is. But then she talks about, you know, a lot of drama that went down, you know, with Charzelle saying that she was going to leave if KL showed up. And then also talking about, you know, this whole situation with social media, because we also come to find out that Asia was actually doing this show with another designer who was pretty much running the fashion show, and there was a lot of drama between the two of them, and it went to the fact that she was you know, she pretty much you know, did a post on Snapchat, and she included her logo. The other girl was pissed off that she didn't include her logo as well, so she went on Snapchat and did like a live feed, and she was just going in on Asia and everything, and Asia was pissed off, you know, and she just wasn't here for it. And then also in the scene, they also discuss you know, doing this massive fashion show in Atlanta, you know, and he said that, and like KL says, he wants to bring all of these different people with their aesthetics together to create the type of fashion show that has never been done in Atlanta. And he was saying that the problem is that I don't want people coming in with their egos and, you know, trying to shoot off their resumes and shit, you know. And then you know, Asia saying that, you know, I got a team, you know, as far as makeup, as far as, you know, designs, all of, you know, hair, all of that. And then she also says I also have a management team. And then this is Chase of Chase Model Management. He also came in with her. And they were saying that, you know, a lot of the fashion shows here in Atlanta are mediocre, and we want to try to go out the box and do something big. And he pretty much recruited Asia to his team. So then after that, we get a scene with Jordan Fashawn and Tracia J, and they're pretty much, you know, FaceTiming each other, and they're talking about, you know, the last photo shoot and that they slayed it, whatever. And then he's like, so what does everybody else think about it? And then Tracia J and her confessional kind of did the look like, I was cracking up. I was like, I love me some Tracia. Tracia is so adorable. And then of course, you know, Jordan was like, so what about your sidekick? What did he think? Talking about Jean-Pierre. And she tells him that he said that he liked the photos. He thought it was cool, but he said that he wanted me to work with another stylist. It's some girl from Florida named Cachet or whatever. And then we see that Jordan Fashawn in his confessional was like, the streets been talking. Because the streets talk here in Atlanta. And, you know, I hear that Jean-Pierre is trying to push some other image consultant onto Tracia J. And he's saying that, I don't know, you know, what is it? It's like you trying to, it's because of like some jealousy that you have towards me or something. Because you can't outdo me. And then, you know, Jordan Fashawn just really went on. And he was like, you know what? You know, this is my city. ATL is my city. You know, if you want to go to Florida to work with Cachet or Trashay or whatever she's called, I'm like, see, you coming from a girl. I ain't like that shit. But then he was saying that, but if you're going to come through my city, you need to be coming through me. And he's like, you know, first of all, either talk nice and don't talk twice. Like, he just made that known. You know, talk nice or talk twice, because you don't want mess, because I ain't the one to bring it. You know, I ain't the one to fuck with. And, you know, and he says, I don't do mess and I don't do low budget events. And she also mentions, you know, Asia's fashion show, whatever, and that Jean-Pierre and KL got into a fight. And he was like, see, I just can't with this shit. You know what I'm saying? Y'all want to bring me into this group, but I'm thinking, like, is it even worth my time, nor me coming down to deal with this? Is it even worth my time? You know, because I ain't got time for the bullshit. So we saw that. But then they actually showed the actual shots, you know, for the shoot that that Jordan as well as Tracia J and you know, Donaldo actually, you know, did her makeup. And I must say, those pictures were everything. And I have to say, my favorite was number 3. I mean, number 2 was hot, but then again, I know they're trying to go for high fashion. I would have to say number 3 definitely represented that, because Tracia J's gorgeous. And I have to say, shout out to Jordan Fashawn and Donato Taylor. You guys did that shit. That was hot. So then, we pretty much see that they actually have that. We see Jean-Pierre, and they have a sit down with KL, and Jean-Pierre decided that he wants to kind of extend an olive branch to KL and do a photo shoot with him. And they have a sit down, and they kind of discuss, you know, their issues and all that. And, you know, that damn KL is shady as hell, because he was in his confessional, was like, you know, personally, I think what's really going on is that Jean-Pierre is jealous of me, because just saying, he in his 40s, you know, so he's pretty much a retiree, and he need to just go somewhere and retire. I was like, that is so fucked up. But I was like, damn, the shade of it all. So they pretty much talk, and he was saying that, you know, as far as his whole gala, he changed all that and just made it like an artist promotional party. And then he said that the thing is, I changed all that, and I sent the memo. You probably didn't get it, but I sent the memo that things were scrapped and everything was different. And, you know, then, you know, he discusses, you know, him being in New York Fashion Week, you know, with his Black Lives Matter line, which I thought was very phenomenal. And then, he was saying that, you know, the thing is, and then Jean-Pierre mentioned that, you know, I would have been in New York Fashion Week, but I had a death in the family, and he mentions that his cousin was killed by the police. That immediately grabbed me, because I, for one, I actually lost a cousin that I grew up with, you know, and he was killed by the police in Virginia. And definitely it's something that I deal with on a daily, you know, because I miss my cousin a lot. And, you know, it's just so messed up that my cousin James was taken out the way he did, was taken out like that, And it just goes to show the actual epidemic of police brutality and how it's affecting our community and our young men and women. And the fact that his cousin, you know, was killed by the police, that definitely rang home for me. And also, you know, KL, I actually give respect to him, because he was like saying, oh, so he's saying that his cousin died, and then he stopped himself and was like, you know, rest in peace to him, and you know, condolences to him and his family, and I hope he's telling the truth. But it's obvious that he was, because if you saw episode 2 where he broke down, that wasn't no fake. That was like a serious breakdown. Like, you know, that's something that's heavy, and something like that you can't fake. And then he, John Pierre opens up about, you know, his whole Black Lives Matter, that spoke to him, and he said that, you know, he had to do some soul searching and said that, look, I gotta make this right. This brother is doing something about Black Lives Matter, and this hits home for me after me losing my cousin. You know, I need to put my personal shit aside and bring him in and actually make amends, and that this should be dedicated to my cousin. And I thought that was very remarkable. And, you know, they literally sat down and they literally were vibing, you know, and he's saying that, look, John Pierre was like, look, I know I'm an asshole. I don't give a fuck. You don't give a fuck. It is what it is. And then they start talking about how the black community, they say they're so pro-black, but there are a lot of issues amongst us as black men. You know, there's a lot of hatred towards each other. People are cutthroat, and they try to diminish you and all of that. Trust and believe, I've definitely experienced that, you know, on my end. So they definitely were speaking some true facts. And, you know, KL also opens up about his cousin, and I can see that he was being real, because you know how KL be in his confessionals. He's literally, you know, clean, and he be wearing his shades. He literally took off his shades and spoke about his cousin. And I was like, see, when someone removes their shades, they want you to see that this is like some real shit. So I definitely had mad respect for that. And then they said that, look, you know, here we are, we're both black men in fashion. We're not getting the actual respect and credibility that we deserve. So we gotta make this right and just come together and make shit happen. So we see the Fash Cam is out, and we actually meet this girl who is beautiful. She's a tattoo artist, but she's also a model. And she's just beautiful, just a natural beauty. Her name is, you know, Melania Rose, you know, like, you know, kind of like Melania Trump, but the black version. But nothing like her at all. But, you know, she's very authentic and everything. And, you know, we see that that Jean-Pierre is not Jean. We see that that KL Allen is working with her. He's talking about his design that he wants her to wear for the shoot. And then we see that Tracia J shows up. And once she sees that KL is working with Melania, she hit the fucking roof. Because she said that KL had did this before, where he had booked a shoot for her, and then when she got to the shoot, he had another model there. So she was pissed off and was flying off the hinges. Melania and Tracia J was going back and forth with each other, and it just went crazy. And then, you know, they was kind of throwing back and forth, and she was saying that, look, I'm the face of Perfect 10, which is, you know, KL's brand. And then all of a sudden, we see that KL in his confessional was like, first of all, honey, at one point you were a Perfect 10 when you had a model size and you had the ability to become a high fashion model. But since you got with Jean-Pierre, you literally you started posing for Playboy and became like this, you know, vixen, you know, image and all of that. And, you know, Perfect 10 is high fashion, and all you are is high trashy. And I was like, oh, damn. And then he also went off the fact that, you know, that Melania is natural. And here you are with your weave representing European standards. How are you going to do a Black Lives Matter and right now you look like, you know, European with the fake hair and all of that shit. So then they start going back and forth, and it just escalates, you know, and to the point where they just, you know, he's pretty much saying, and he pretty much told Tracy J that, look, if you had a rapper boyfriend, maybe you'll be interesting. You know, maybe people will know who you are. And then all of a sudden it just like goes crazy. And before, you know, and the thing is, you know, Jean-Pierre literally is just saying that, look, stop fighting with him, because Tracy J is like, when she on one, it's hard to calm her down. When she pissed, she not gonna stop. And here it is, Jean-Pierre's like saying, Tracia, let's go. So he puts on her coat, and before she left, she was like, KL, suck a dick, and left. I was like, ooh, shit. Ooh. And then KL gets in his confessional and shades some more, was like saying that, boo-boo, really? Like, you think you a perfect 10? Boo-boo, you are canceled. You are not perfect 10. You need to go be with fabulous faces and disappear. I'm like, oh, damn, KL. It's like that, dude? I'm like, wow. And then we see that they go back to the actual shoot. We see that Trey is Jean-Pierre's son. He's working with his father. And I thought that was really cool, father and son working together. And I have to say, Melania looked gorgeous. The actual look that KL created for her was perfect. And they showed the images and everything. And I had to say, the second photo was my favorite one of Melania. Great job. So then we get a scene with Asia Shari. Love me some Asia. Asia's gorgeous. But Asia's shady as hell, though. I just gotta call it. It is what it is. But I love her. We see that she's at a fashion show, and Cachet Royale is there too, and they're pretty much VIP, so they're watching a fashion show. Also, Melania is walking in this show, and pretty much during the intermission, Asia and Cachet go outside and they start talking, and they actually vibe very well. Pretty much Asia says she probably only like one designer there, because, you know, even Cachet was like, you know, I really wasn't fully impressed, you know, with the looks that they were presenting, but it was what it was. And you can see that they really do take, you know, their level of aesthetic and knowledge of the industry seriously, because they go to different fashion shows and they pretty much observe, you know, good move. But then Asia said that, you know, there was a girl that was on the crew with us, and she was walking in the fashion show. Well, she was formerly with us, and they were talking about Melania. Melania used to work with Asia and I think Chase Models Management, but now she's doing something else. But then she was saying that, you know, well, as far as I'm concerned, the only time I would deal with a model that can't walk is if she's maybe 13 or 14. I'll work with her. But if you've been in this game for a minute, you can't walk, you ain't getting my time. And Asia tells Cachet about this big fashion show they're planning in July in the summer, which is what her and KL was talking about earlier, you know, with Chase. And she wanted her to be a part of it. And, you know, Cachet just came out, look, my personality is crazy, you know, and, you know, but she says that, you know, I'll come, and then she mentions to her that, you know, they're having like a get-together dinner where they all can actually interact with each other. And she says that, look, I'll accept the invitation, you know, and, you know, I'm all about being in the industry and meeting new people, and I'll see what these people bring, and that will determine, you know, what they get back from me. So I'm like, yes, Cachet, Cash, Royalty, and Fudge, she about that life. So I was like, here for that. So then we get a scene. It's this place called the Clubhouse in Atlanta. We see that KL and Trusty J meet up, and this is the first time they met up since that blowout at the fashion shoot at Jean-Pierre's house. They pretty much, you know, pretty much he kind of KL pretty much let it be known that, well, what actually happened is that Jean-Pierre set up the fashion shoot and everything, and I didn't even know who was coming or anything, but you know, he's the one who presented Melania, and I wanted her, and he kind of let her know that, look, you were representing European standards, so of course Black Lives Matter. I want an actual natural girl to represent that brand. But then she said, but then he kind of lets her know that, hey, you know, you're better than a perfect 10. You know, you're an entrepreneur. You got your own thing going on. You're a brand in and of yourself. You know, so, you know, perfect 10 should be a lane for like some new upcoming girl to be a part of that. You know, you've surpassed it. And they pretty much realized, they kind of chalked it up and said it was some miscommunication. So they decided to bury the hatchet. And then they bring up Charzelle and the whole fabric situation and all of that. And then he said that, look, I have a friend named Vanessa Henderson, who's a designer. I sent her some fabric, you know, to help me with my line for New York Fashion Week. She did it in 2 days. Charzelle didn't produce nothing. And if anything, what she did was just show her ass when I confronted her about it. And then he pretty much was like, you know what, you know, that's dead, because like I'm not gonna give her no more time off of me, so I ain't even mentioning her ass no more. So, you know, he said that, you know, he decided to invite some new personalities into the situation. And he said that, look, we just got to work this out. You know, Rome wasn't built in a day, and the fashion industry in Atlanta ain't going to be built in a day either. So, we see at the group meetup, Melania shows up, Jean-Pierre shows up, Asia Shari shows up, Daryl DC Chambers shows up. And we see that DC and Asia, you know, connected or whatever. And you know, she was in her confessionals like, you know, he is cute, you know, but, you know, I normally don't go for light-skinned guys or whatever, but, you know, he's attractive. And I'm like, Asia, ain't you married with a kid? What's really going on, hon? Because I was like, she kind of saw, I mean, I'm saying, like, you know, Daryl DC Chambers is fine as hell. I mean, he is tall, he got the dreads, and he's fit. So I'm like, hey, you know, there's a lot of women that probably fawn, men as well, you know. It is what it is. But I'm letting you know, Latangela will probably, you know, strangle a bitch. You come for her man. I mean, that's her tree, and only she gonna climb that. You know, it is what it is. But we definitely could tell that the two of them clicked, and you know, it was all good. And then, you know, once they get there, you know, Jean-Pierre talks about his first time working in New York Fashion Week was in 2001. And again, the question of resume started coming up. And then KL's like, you know what? I don't give a fuck about nobody's fucking resume, you know. And then he pretty much says that, oh, but I remember. And then Jean-Pierre was like, oh, but I remember when KL was crawling into the game, and it was the perfect date, 11/11/11. I was like, November 11, 2011. He said that's when he came into the game. And then, like, you know, and then again, KL was in his confessionals like, what is it with you, Jean-Pierre? Why are you over talking everybody? Like, it's obvious that you're jealous of me. Like, seriously? And then Jean-Pierre, and then KL Allen, my bad. KL Allen starts talking about the high fashion event that he wants to do within June or July, and you know, pretty much what ends up happening is that, you know, he's pretty much saying, so then Jean-Pierre is like, well, what event? You know, where are we gonna have this at? You know, what event you have? Where's the venue? What's going on? And then, of course, KL was getting pissed off because Jean-Pierre, you know, was over-talking him. And he was saying that, and Jean-Pierre, he's like, so won't you tell me, Jean-Pierre, where the hell should we have it at, huh? And he was like, the atrium. You know, there we go. And then all of a sudden, we see that, you know, things start igniting because Tracy J was like, oh, yes, and then because you know Melania was there, so she was like, oh yes. And KL also said that, you know, that I don't need to be the face of Perfect 10 because I'm a brand in my own right, and you know, all this. And then next thing you know, it starts leading to KL and Tracy getting into it, because KL's like, why are you doing all this? Are you insecure or something? What the hell is going on? And then he starts saying that, you know, if anything, one minute you Tracy a J, and then now you giving Trashy a J. And I was like, wow, crazy. So they end up going back and forth and everything, and it gets heated between them, you know, and he's pretty much, you know, talking about the horse hair, like, so what you do? Did you get your hair from Mr. Ed and all of that, all that horse you wearing, you know, all this European, you know, look that you giving, and all of that video vixen, blah blah blah. And they just go back and forth, and it just gets to the point that Tracy just had it, and she literally throws a drink at she throws her drink onto KL, which definitely set him off. And then the next thing you know, we see KL and Jean-Pierre literally, you know, getting physical with each other. And what ended up happening is that they end up shooting down production. Daryl DC Chambers, you know, does a confession where he says that, look, you know, what ended up happening is that things got out of hand. You know, they started putting their hands on each other. Production broke them up, and they just shut down the set. And that's pretty much what happened. And and they also put a disclaimer that the actual footage of what went down was removed because they don't want to promote violence. And I thought that was definitely really smart, you know, to actually nip that in the bud. I mean, because we fight and we sometimes get into it, but it's not nothing to be celebrated, and it's not something to rave about, because these are two very well you know, creative black men, and they don't want to put that narrative out there. And I definitely shout out to production for making that call. That was smart. But it's just unfortunate that here it is, they had this kumbaya moment, and then the next thing you know, they fighting again. It's just like that, you know, Jean-Pierre and KL, it's just like a love-hate thing. And that's exactly what KL said in the very first episode of the Fashionaires of Atlanta. And this is plainly obvious. At one moment they love, and then within a minute or so, they hating each other all over again. And it's crazy. But the funny thing about it, when they come together, they can produce some good shit. Because that shit with Melania was hot. But that's what I have, everybody. If I missed anything, put it down in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. But subscribe to my channel. Click that bell so you get notifications every time I drop a video. Also, follow me on all of my social platforms. I have them listed in the description box. Also, like this video, comment on this video, and share this video. And I'll be back with the next episode of Fashionaires of Atlanta. I'm really loving this show, y'all. So until next time, everybody, take care.